Hey, I'm John Hart. Welcome back to Mr. America Hart. I sure am glad you're here today. All right, so y'all know that I follow quite a few YouTubers, in particular, the really smart ones. Actually, I really enjoy when I can learn something. That's really my big thing. So as some of you know, I've been a high-intensity training advocate for my entire adult life. I mean, from the time I lifted a barbell for the first time. And Mike Mentzer in particular, his heavy-duty training methods are what I employed, and I even worked for his company for about 11, 12 years later on, teaching that system. So I'm very familiar with not just heavy-duty, but also just high-intensity training in general. I'm, however, quite open to listening to and learning, and especially when there's a really good sounding study that comes up. And today I came across one. One of the YouTubers that I follow is Layne Norton, okay, PhD. Layne is his handle on YouTube. I'll put a link down below. Y'all can check out the study that I'm talking about. But it came across my feed today. I was really kind of happy to be listening to it because it caught my attention. The title of the thumbnail when it said that it was comparing drop sets to pre-exhaust to conventional training. And, you know, for me in particular, this one's a special one. I've lived most of my high intensity existence on pre-exhaust. Most of my career up until the last 10 years or so, the first 30 was heavily involved with pre-exhaust training. So I would be in and out of the gym doing an isolation exercise followed by a compound exercise, following truly a lot of what Mike Mentzer had taught. And I got great results from it. I mean, I've lived my dream, as you all know. I've won the Mr. America, I've won the Natural Miss Universe. I have no complaints whatsoever. I believe that I achieved my genetic peak in bodybuilding and did so, and pretty much went out in my own view on my terms. My body was not broken. I've been able to continue to lift to this day. I have great posture. I'm about to hit 60 years old, and all of that to say I did a lot right. And I have believed that the pre-exhaust had a lot to do with it when I used it. So in particular, Layne was going through this study, a recent one, that compared drop set training to pre-exhaust to conventional training. And again, you'll have to watch that video separate. I'll put a picture up here so you see which one it is by his thumbnail. But I don't want to copyright, get a strike for copywriting his material. I want you to go over there and check out the entire video. But I want you to understand a few points here. Ready? Number one, he points out how this was a recreational crowd being studied. This was not a bunch of advanced athletes, advanced bodybuilders, advanced lifters, serious lifters. So that automatically kind of skews it a little bit, but let's just say not too much, okay? Recreational lifters. And the thing, that part I didn't like. I'm going to tell you what I didn't like and what I did like. That part I didn't like. And he didn't sound like he liked it either, okay? It would be great if we could have a study done on some experienced lifters, ones who've been training for 20 years or so and using these techniques. However, that notwithstanding, what was so good about it? What was so good about it was that the volume used across the spectrum of drop sets, pre-exhaust, and conventional training, the volume used was exactly the same. So they kind of eliminated that variable in saying, all right, well, we're going to do pre-exhaust, but we're going to do the same amount of volume that we did on drop sets, and we're going to do the same amount of volume that we did on conventional training. So all of those things being equal, they minimized the variables and brought it down to a point where you could get as best summary as you could, okay? And the bottom line became, and I'm going to give it to you right now, okay? Whether you're drop setting, I'm going to tell you what I think about drop setting in a moment. Pre-exhausting, that's an isolation exercise to a compound movement, or conventional training, just multiple sets of 8 to 12, okay, for bodybuilding hypertrophy purposes. Doesn't matter. All three of them, the same results. Wow, that kind of made me really happy. I know some of you all will be like, well, John, what are you, out of your mind? You've always said pre-exhaust is best. Well, listen, if anything, you guys who subscribe to my channel and you guys have come across any of my videos before that aren't subscribed yet, that's a little hint. Hit the subscribe button at the end of this video, or even right now off to my left, or a thumbs up down below, okay? That would help the channel out a lot. How about just tapping that for a moment here while I interrupt myself? John, you must be out of your mind. You've always said pre-exhaust is great, way better than conventional training. Oh, you've said drop setting sucks, you know? Well, I've never really said drop setting sucks. I've actually said that Mike Mentzer thought that drop setting was more of an endurance activity. And what he meant was the way that most people use it. The way that most people use drop sets is they take a weight, and maybe let's just say hypothetically they can get 8 repetitions with it. Okay, so they crank out 8 repetitions, they press out 8 repetitions. 8 reps, they kind of fail, they put the weight down, they drop off some weight, but usually too much weight. And when they do that, they're doing literally another 8 reps. So 6 or 7 of them are not to failure. And in his opinion, that was creating more of an endurance training as opposed to stimulating more muscle growth or tearing down the muscle as much. So, which would result in more growth, in his opinion. So all of that, I just came to sort of have more of a conservative view of drop sets. In other words, I would rarely use them. Most times I've had a training partner, so I'll take forced reps. Forced reps, meaning you hit failure on an exercise and then you have somebody help you very little, as little as possible to complete, say, 2 more reps. And when you do that without any rest, going from positive failure and then doing 2 extra forced reps, I mean, wow, you are blasting away. Excuse me. Kind of felt that thing moving a little bit. Let's just leave that in place. You are kind of blasting away at that muscle, and it's way intense as opposed to drop setting where you're actually getting a break for 5 seconds or so, 6 seconds, 8 seconds, and then picking the weight back up and going again, and usually overestimating how much weight to take off. So there's that variable on the drop setting, that it does increase the volume a little bit, but it also may be involving more endurance activity if you drop the weight too much. You should treat it like it's another way of doing forced reps. It's another way of increasing the intensity, getting out an extra 2 or 3 reps by barely dropping the weight, taking off just maybe 10% of the weight instead of taking off 30, and ripping out another 2 or 3 reps. It'd be great. So drop sets. Realizing that the drop sets, the pre-exhaust, and the conventional training all brought the same results across the board. That kind of tells me, again, any of you all know me, we're getting back to this one point, long term. It's the long haul that matters. This is one thing that Mike O'Hearn and I have in common, besides we're about the same age, in the same age range, and we worked together on a TV show called Battle Dome back in the day, and we're friends. Mike, you'll hear if you ever listen to his channel and any of his videos, you'll hear him talk about longevity. Longevity in his training, longevity in his bodybuilding, longevity in maintaining muscle mass, longevity in looking good, longevity in not having injuries. There it is. Not having injuries. Not creating injuries. Well, that is huge. As you get on your bodybuilding career, thinking long haul, long term, once you make it past that first 10 years, some guys have some wear and tear on their bodies. All of a sudden, your bad habits are going to show up in the form of injuries. And it doesn't take that long for that to happen. Soft tissue injuries suck. And some of them take a long time to get rid of because you've messed up the mechanics of the muscles and the joints. So, avoiding those things. Certainly, one way of doing that is minimizing the amount of volume that you do to instill hypertrophy or to stimulate hypertrophy. If drop setting, pre-exhaust, and conventional training, all done at the same volume, created the same net result, then which of those do you think would be the least injurious to your body? So if you're forced to use less weight on a compound movement because you've done pre-exhaust, you've done an isolation movement followed by a compound movement, you've just lowered the amount of weight that you're using on that compound movement. That tells me the likelihood of injury is much less. The number of repetitions that you'll get on that compound movement generally is less as well. So I kind of like that. And I have to tell you that if you were to really take it down to where they did those studies with the same amount of volume. Now, I'd like to see the study vary a little bit by, yes, do all the other things the same, but now do it by dropping the volume on the pre-exhaust, and let's see. But I know that's in my perfect world scenario where we go and we see, that the scientists that are putting together these studies, if they had unlimited funds and they were able to do these studies just any way they wanted and have the test subjects stay in the study for another 12 weeks or another 16 weeks, it would be great to see, hypothetically. But I'm here to tell you that empirically, so this is not a study, empirically, I've seen such great success, not just in myself, but in my clientele. And as you all know, I've trained average people who came from literally beginner levels all the way to advanced. I've trained athletes. I've trained also bodybuilders, both natural and enhanced, at the upper levels of their sport. And they all made amazing progress on very, very low volumes of exercise. And we did use pre-exhaust quite a bit on many of them. So I'd like to see some of those studies being done. Hit me down below with your opinion about what you'd like to see done in some of these studies, because who knows, maybe Layne or some of these guys, some of these PhDs that are out there right now doing these studies who watch my videos, maybe they'll be inquisitive enough to check down below in the comment section and see some of your ideas and then eventually use some of them. It would be awesome, wouldn't it? So some of them in their upcoming studies could get inspired by your comments. So please, down below, go ahead and hit it. I'd love to hear them myself. Let me know what kind of studies you'd like to see done. And on my end, I'm just enjoying catching and reaping the benefits of these guys having done all these studies and kind of extrapolating my own information from it and using it in training. I don't mind doing a little experimentation on myself, but also with the clients that I have when I let them know, hey, we're trying this out. What do you think? I always let them know. And if we're going to try things out and they're agreeable, then we try things out for a certain time period and they either get great results or not so great results, but at least they're open to trying it. So that's it for today. I hope you're as excited as I am that studies are actually being done. You see, I'm not afraid of the data that could come out. If there's any criticism that I could have about Mike Mentzer in particular, I was friends with him, as you know, many of you. It's that he never really tracked the data with his clients. He never did open himself up to being involved in any kind of study with his clients. And as a result, there's a lot of hyperbole, there's a lot of observable, there's a lot of bias in his observations. It's his word that we all trust, right? And if anything, knowing Mike like I did, he would appreciate any questioning, let's say. He always appreciated the fact that I would question him and ask questions, but also just simply having a dissenting opinion. You could have a different opinion other than what somebody who you admire has. And that doesn't mean that you're to be villainized or castigated or struck down or canceled just for having a differing opinion. Certainly, a lot of you know I have many differing opinions from what Mike had when he was alive. And I'm not casting aspersions onto him now that he's not here because he can't answer for himself. But certainly, having a different opinion, I'm still going to express. If anything you guys know about me, I'm going to express my opinion on certain things when it comes to training and diet. And I certainly do. And I don't mind expressing certain things, even if it goes against what my training mentor was expressing or said was the truth. In some cases, I just don't flat out believe it. Okay? So that's it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart. I'm looking forward to the next time we get together. And before you go, remember what I said in the middle of this video. Off to my left, there's that disc popping up. That is the subscribe button for my channel. Please give that thing a tap. Let the YouTube algorithm know that you like my videos. And down below, that thumbs up button, that really lights up the YouTube algorithm and lets them know how much you like my videos, and it lights me up too. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.